Welcome, everybody. I am Kurt Roskoff. I'm out here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, bringing you the World of Ability podcast, vodcast. We got audio, video, multimedia. We're out there saying hi to our YouTube audience and all of you that get the shares on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, X.com, and Clubhouse, and everywhere we're reaching you. Thank you for joining and tuning in to this, your World of Ability podcast show. We've been doing this for approaching 5 years. It was July 26, 2020, 30th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act that got us started with this revealed show on that day. And we've been doing this every Saturday. We do it 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific time. And today we're going to do a special exclusive feature. We're going to have a friend of ours from the Happy Neighborhood Project, and we're going to talk quite a bit about financial and education. And this is a friend who has had his time out here in the Milwaukee area and with relocation out there in California, and out there by our friend Edwin Edaberry. And Edwin is our chief happiness officer, and there's been a history of this that the story told starts in 2009, spreading happiness around the world. So we're going to have one of our happy crusaders on here, and we're going to talk about education. Now, on my side, our friend here knows that I like to talk a lot about special needs trusts and about able accounts and stuff that really helps people with disabilities accomplish protecting their Medicaid benefits, Medicaid, Medicare, and all the tools. And we've got a long ways to go, folks, to help people with disabilities be able to get job, own businesses, be financial advisors, whatever it be, and to not feel that their support from our government services are at risk. But for the time being, the legislation and laws are what they are. And so it's got to come back to compliance, conformance, and playing by the rules here in the laws of the land of the United States of America, and helping people pursue their devoted dreams. And so we're going to come in here. We're going to welcome you to someone that I really took off with through the Happy Neighborhood Project, Happy Business Networking, saw how he entered in the world of finances. Going further back, he's shared how he's been involved in fundraising projects, and wow, the size of fundraising success that our friend Lee Rosenblum has had from Wisconsin. So this is a story from Wisconsin to California fashion. So Lee, welcome to the show. You've gotten very familiar with the work I do and vice versa. I've gotten very familiar with the work you do, and the books you all have available and the education you do. First of all, Lee, how are you doing today?
Well, wonderful. It is great to see you. I miss you. Kurt, you and I have never met, but I know we have a lot in common. And if we ever did, we'd probably be able to have days and days where no one would ever want to talk to us because we'd be engrossed with each other.
There we go. I agree with that, brother. So yeah, we've got, plans, Lee and I, and he's coming from the financial side. And Lee used to kind of serve a lot of people with disabilities and what you used to do way back when. And but you've kind of shifted to just be more of a general marketplace, service and education, and helping people understand great things, like you keep talking about the rule of 72 and all the things that compound interests, and kind of the role of investing and diversifying, and be having your income protected, through maybe life insurance policies, whatever it may be, to have a full complete profile and program. And so it comes down to financial education, so understanding about money. So Lee, what do you want to say about that? Tell us a little bit more about, kind of what fuels you every day, being motivated to be in this role of I'll say a money man. It's not your words, but I'll put it that way, a money man, and just really helping people in that part of life. Because like Zig Ziglar said, money is about as essential as oxygen, right?
All right, let me give you a little bit of my background so you understand why I wanted to especially join you on World of Ability podcast. When I was living in Milwaukee, Kurt, I was moderately exercising. I mean, very moderately exercising, a couple of times a week. And I was running along the lakefront one day going south, and there were 20, 30, 40 people coming north and passing me up, passing me on my shoulder. At the end of that little line, a woman was giving out water. And so I asked her, well, what's going on today? I have no idea. And she said, oh, this is the marathon buildup. I said, what's that? Well, that is these people today they're running 7 miles today, and we're going to get them ready to run the Milwaukee Marathon in 12 weeks. I said 7 miles to 26 miles in 12 weeks. No way. That doesn't make any sense to me. She says, yeah, sure. All these people are going to run the marathon in 12 weeks. She said, come back next week and we'll show you. So I showed up the next week, and they went from 7 to 10 to 12 to 14. They just kind of, every couple of weeks, every week they push you another couple of miles. It's the way to build up your stamina and your leg strength and everything. And I just kind of got caught up in it, kind of just by, what else am I going to do? Also, of course, I had a family and kids and everything, but they knew that I wanted to be a little more in shape. So I ran the marathon for the first time in 1998. Well, shortly after that, I had a very serious concern or fear for a health fear, and I was pretty much sure what it was. My mother had multiple sclerosis when I was in the teens, and she and I knew all about her a lack of mobility and how it affected her. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've got it now. That's my first thought. Well, you don't get really diagnosed with multiple sclerosis for many years because your doctor has to kind of examine your physical abilities over a long period of time, and there's no real test for it. So even though in Milwaukee in 1998, I thought that I contracted or figured I had in '98, I didn't get actually diagnosed for a few years later, and when I started taking medications for it. But that's kind of my world of ability kind of story, and that's my connection with Milwaukee and Kurt. Although I worked in this wonderful organization for 5 years and doing fundraising, and that was my career, Kurt. I worked for big charities, largely just trying to reach out to people and get them to support national and international programs. The national programs, for example, in Milwaukee would be community centers, family centers, all things for families and youth and adults and handicapped people. And it was really fantastic. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Loved Milwaukee. But anyway, I had to relocate back to Los Angeles because my wife was really homesick. So I spent more time in Los Angeles. I'm back in my hometown in Sacramento, California. But during that course of that, I retired from my first career as a nonprofit fundraiser after having raised a lot of money, probably around $250 million or more. I ran big campaigns. I mean, these weren't all gifts that I got directly from people personally, because I had big teams of volunteers and professionals I was working with and coaching and training and taking people on trips all over the world to show them the projects they were funding. It was really an incredible career. But at some point, as you probably all know, that when you get to be a certain age or your health declines, you can't really continue doing what you were always doing or what you always wanted to do. And I got to that point and realized I've got to find a career that I can largely do from my home, because all the moving around and mobility things that I just was going to be limited in my life, because it was going to happen, is going to get worse and worse. That's what happens with multiple sclerosis. So 12 years ago, I reinvented myself. I guess that was the terminology back then. I'm not sure that's what it is now. And I started developing a business to help teach people about money. So we call it How Money Works, because most people don't learn this stuff in school. Because they don't learn in school, they get taken advantage of, or they find some things on the internet which are not always correct. They don't know who to trust. We live in an environment, Kurt, right now. I mean, we have, I would say, for the last at least 10 years, probably 15 years, we live in what's called a post-trust world, where you never know who to trust. And because there's so much information, who do you really trust? I tell my sons all the time, my sons are 35 and 32. I tell them all the time, there was a time when you turn on the news, by and large, they were going to tell you things that, you could all believe, that most people who watched believed it. So I use the term, you use Walter Cronkite as my example. Can't remember when he passed, but he was the CBS newscaster for years and years and years. And when he came on the news at 6 o'clock at night, and if you watch Walter Cronkite, I would just guesstimate that 95% of the people who watched it agreed. Yeah, that sounds reasonable. I could buy that. Well, now when you watch news, you never know what you're going to get. So that's part of this post-trust world. So we teach people things they never learned in school, like the rule of 72, Kurt, as you said, and the power of compound interest and the time value of money. And once people learn these things, they have a smaller chance or less a chance to being taken advantage of or having problems with their finances. We teach the 7 money milestones, the 7 things that if everybody did it, they would probably not have any financial trouble. A few of my partners have written books. We have these books available that are available by download, or I mail out books to people I meet all the time. It just teaches these things. It doesn't sell anything. It just teaches you things you probably should have learned, I say, in ninth grade. Why ninth grade? Because that's when people start getting jobs as mowing lawns or as babysitters or paper routes. Well, there's no paper routes. I'm showing my age. And that's when they start making money and realize, okay, I want to make more money because I want to buy different Nike shoes or whatever it is. And that's when people should learn this stuff, but nobody does. I mean, there's only 5 or 6 states that offer financial education, the primary system, and that's a real problem. And that's why we're addressing that problem, and that's why we're busy teaching people about money. Now, that's largely my second career, Kurt. And now I've given you a long preamble about who I am and why I'm interested in disabilities and things and money, and not money, but teaching about money.
All right, thanks, Lee. So, let's continue on this path. So, somebody reads your PDF, book, so they enjoy the book and they give you a great review on the book. And, there's this thing in life, sometimes you realize, or the more you know, the more you realize what you don't know. So, to what extent do you find that it goes? Do you feel that people get the book? When they read the book, they feel like, well, you got a handful of books, right? I mean, do you have people like gobbling up, all the books you got, or how does it all work with, how you're using that and
Sure.
what's the feedback you're getting?
Sure. Well, the books are available at Amazon, of course, for whatever $12 or $15. I give out these books as a way to start my conversation with people about money. And it's very simple. The first book is called "How Money Works: Stop Being a Sucker." And why was it written that? Because most people, get taken advantage of. The second book was called "How Money Works for Women," because that partner who wrote that book, she envisioned that there were 9 possible life stages that a woman may go through. That's before kids, in college, working, before husband, before family, after family, before divorce, after divorce, things like that. And during these different life stages, her perception of money and need for money would change over time. So we use these books to teach people a lot of things. And directly to your answer, most people read them and you know what they say to themselves? Gee, I need to know more. And that it begins a conversation about where do you go from here? Maybe they just want to keep learning, which is great. There's materials, and we have not only materials, we do seminars and webinars all the time. So mostly when people read the books, they feed into my seminars and webinars, either in person or virtual. And then about some of these people, maybe a quarter, end up saying to me, "Hey, listen, Lee, I never learned this stuff, but I have an IRA. What is that? Or I want to know, is Social Security going to be around for me, in 10 or 20 or 30 years? How do I plan for that? Or how do I save money in the right way? I don't want to lose money. And I want to make sure." And then maybe there are people I meet that are, close to retirement or retiring. They say, "I saved a pot of money. What do I do? How do I make sure I don't lose it? How can I make sure it lasts for my lifetime?" These are the kind of things I do to ultimately with people if they want that. But the education process is the very beginning. And the second part of that process is find someone to talk to, find someone who you trust to talk to. So that's kind of that's the first 7 of the 7 money milestones. First 2 of the 7 money milestones.
Okay, excellent. So, let's just back up the train a little bit. You told a nice story about, your trail in Milwaukee, talk about reinventing yourself. You give us the idea, this is a handful of years you're in the financial services industry. So with these books, it sounds like 5 or more years ago this all began for you. Take us into that time, Lee, where you weren't doing financial services, and tell us how you got attracted to it, what it meant for you, and then you got into it and you knew you wanted to keep with it because of how people were responding to you. How did you find this company you're with? How did you come upon these books? When did you first read them? Tell us more of your personal experience coming into
Sure,
it.
sure. Thank you. Well, because I dealt with uh, most people I dealt with through my career doing fundraising were either rich, very rich, or super rich. And I say very few of them were middle class people. And when I say middle class people, so giving $100 or $50 to the charity that I was worked for. Most people I dealt with were giving 1,000, 10,000, 50,000, maybe $100,000 a year to the charity that I was working for. That's a lot of money. If you were giving $100,000 a year to charity, to my charity, and I knew this from all the work I did with them, they were giving out probably a total of about $400,000 to $800,000 total. I would get probably an eighth or a sixth of their total charity. Well, if you're giving out $800,000 a year to charity, your income is probably in the neighborhood of $3 or $4 million. Okay, well, these are the people I dealt with, and because of that, I was recruited twice to go work for big Wall Street firms because they knew that I could deal with money and rich people and whatever. And they largely just wanted to. These companies wanted me just to introduce them to my people I knew. It was very simple. That's largely the way business works and largely the way the financial services department industry works. Introduce my company to your friends. Well, I knew that if I worked for one of these companies, I'd have one job and one job only every day, and that would be to make rich people richer. You understand what I'm saying, Kurt? So if they just wanted me to introduce them to the rich friends and then convince them that that company had a recipe to make them richer than other companies would. That's really essentially what the world was. But I knew that if I did that, I would be very, very, very dissatisfied. Why? Because if I had a client who was worth 25 million and the company hired me to help them become worth 27 million, that would be very dissatisfying to me. So I found this company that deals with middle class people who have middle class problems, who just want to get out of debt, who want to save some money in the right way, send their kids to college, retire the way they want to when they want. And it's a very middle class way to deal with people, and I've absolutely loved it because all of my clients, I would say, with the exception of maybe one, none of my clients would ever be able to get help by the big banks in Wall Street because they all have minimums. You have to have a minimum of this and that. If you ever want to talk about that, Kurt, I could tell you. But they all have minimums. And so you don't have an X amount of money, we won't deal with you. I'm not sure you know about that. That's largely what the big banks in Wall Street do. We do all the same things, but we do it with minimum is $100. We can save you in the market for $100. So it's so different from everybody else, and that's how I was attracted to them because I just wanted to because I was harkening back to my commitment to the social work principles that I learned in social work school and spent 30 years doing. I wanted to just help middle class people, get to where they wanted to get to, and that's how I got attracted to this company. And most of my clients, Kurt, are teachers, public school teachers in California or government workers. And most people don't know this, but public school teachers in most states do not receive Social Security because they don't pay into it. So when I meet young teachers and they all want to save money to make sure that they can supplement their retirement because they all have a state retirement. In California, it's called CalSTRS. There's a California state teacher pension program, but they want to supplement that. So I create programs for teachers to supplement that, and it's very gratifying to deal with teachers. And it's some of my best mentors. And if you knew the names of all of my teachers, you could probably guess all of my passwords because all of my passwords are all of my favorite teachers.
Wow, what a statement. You get me thinking of our friend Zach Clayton out of Denver, Colorado, who's got Community Pay It Forward, and every year he's been running a 22-hour live stream,
Right.
really bringing attention to our veterans due to the old statistic of 22 veterans a day being lost to suicide. But now we're hearing that the number is going to come out someday that'll be closer to 48 a day. So pretty much by the time you and I are done talking, Lee, we would statistically speaking have lost the veterans. So he's
God
got an
forbid.
annual
God forbid.
program. Yeah, exactly. So he's got a program every year that's where it came from, but he's expanded it. So now we're looking forward to February 22nd already of 2026 for the next program, but he's made it more of a, healthy heroes program. And he's talking about heroes being our veterans, law enforcement, and our teachers, so that's kind of where we're going. Because yeah, our teachers really could use a lot more attention and support, and talking about the opportunity to think about where we're missing educating our young citizens and all citizens, about how money works and to not be a sucker, to avoid those problems. It's very valuable, because Albert Einstein has been quoted to talk about how, in life, when you get off track, it takes 10 times the amount of energy to get back on track in life than if you just stay on that correct path in the first place. So I kind of think that's what you're doing, Lee, is you're helping people stay on that financially savvy path, all throughout the way and not deviate off course from their financial objectives all the way through retirement, like you said, to help make sure that the money will last for the rest of their life, right?
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. In fact, I have one client. You mentioned a special needs trust. I have a client who has funded his special needs trust for his 36, I think, year old son who has autism, is very, very serious, all kinds of outbreaks and difficult behavior issues with the son. But I've helped him through that. And so we do a lot of that too. And speaking of Albert Einstein, by the way, there's a funny intersection between everything we talked about, Albert Einstein and money. I'll tell you what it is right now. Albert Einstein said the eighth wonder of the world is compound interest. Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world.
Sure. That would make sense. It is a powerful force in the financial sector, and for people to understand how it plays into either, an opportunity cost, not taking advantage of compound interest, or to have it in play and, have that residual income coming from planning on having compound interest come into play, which is where the rule of 72 comes in, right?
Exactly. If you save money, compound interest works in your favor. If you owe money, it works to your disadvantage. Because why? If you owe, making it up, $1,000 on your credit card, and they're charging you 20% interest, which is kind of what credit cards do. You know how fast it takes your money to double? It takes your money maybe 3.5 or 4 years to double. That means your debt would double in 3.5 or 4 years without if you don't do anything about it. And that's just crazy. And banks are there's a lot of reason to use banks, but think about this. Banks are enormously profitable. Why? Well, if you had savings there, what does the savings account pay now? Maybe 1%, 1%, which is crazy because it used to be 4 or 5% when I was younger. But if you had a credit card, they're going to charge you 20 or 22%. So here's a business that gives you 1% and charges 22%. Well, how do you think that's probably the most profitable business in the world? Probably, yeah, one of them.
Um, Yeah, you're saying you answered the question already, right? 22 you owe and they're providing you 1%, and that's how it's so profitable. That's what you're saying, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So very good. So yeah, Lee, I really celebrate what you're doing and how you position yourself and these stories you're telling. And I can only imagine the reactions and the accolades you get from your clients and how you make a difference in everybody's life. That's what your whole life has been about. You're very service minded, and thank you for doing what you're doing, Lee. It's really great.
Thank you. Our company just started creating the first comprehensive national financial literacy index. And so I think I sent you, Kurt, and I'm not sure how to type that on the phone because I'm using my phone. But we're looking for people to take the little quiz. There's 25 questions. There's no attribution whatsoever. No, it'll be totally confidential. But we're trying to figure out who knows what based on their region, their uh, their gender, their background, their education, number of kids, and then we'll be able to create this index, and that index is going to be published in the Wall Street Journal once in a while, so people know where they stand in terms of their financial knowledge.
Yeah, that's great. And obviously, the important part of that is if people are realizing they got to catch up or make a striking improvement, like coming back to grabbing those books you have and whatever. And you mentioned about events you have. Why don't you share a little bit that if somebody wants to join these events you have, how do they reach out to you or how do they attend these educational sessions that you alluded to?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm not sure how to put this into the chat, or maybe I can come back another time with all that information. But through my website, we have Zoom events all the time where people can kind of take this conversation today to the next level and learn about. For example, we teach what how do you best manage your short term savings? How do you best manage your long term savings? What kind of things are you at risk for if you pass away without a trust or a will? These are the kind of things we teach, and it goes on forever and ever on these seminars. So I'm not sure how to put it into the chat. I probably should have loaded it in prior to this meeting. But if how best can I get that to your audience, Kurt?
What you can do, Lee, is at your convenience, you can just communicate with me what you want to attach to this video, and then I can go back and edit the video so that it's there, and we can also make an
Great.
additional post to really highlight this invitation to your events.
Sure. I'll send you the website, and they can find through my website some of the events that I do. They're all free, all on Zoom kind of things.
Okay, and the other thing I can offer is folks can feel free to call and text me 262-372-1754 and also shoot me emails. Email me Kurt, Kurt, at spiritofthegame.org. Lee, do you want to leave it that they reach me or do you want to leave any contact information?
Uh, sure. My email is Lee dot Rosenblum Rosenblum at wealthwave.com. That's one word, no dots, dashes, or anything. Wealthwave, WEALTHWAVE.com. And if you find me on LinkedIn, my cell number's on there too, and you can reach me through LinkedIn as well. I'm the only, my LinkedIn is Lee Rosenblum, Financial Educator.
Okay. That sounds really good. So, all right. Well, we basically delivered everything we had planned on. We
Thank
had
you.
yeah, we had been in communication earlier this week, and I appreciate you Lee, making the plans to join me today. You were with us on Wednesday for the Ability MK Now show, and and do you think you're gonna come back someday for the time frame of the TDC Today show someday?
Yes, yes. I usually have a commitment on Saturday, but a few times a year, I definitely want. Now that I know where you are, I certainly will. And I'll let you know ahead of time that I'm going to be here.
Yeah, definitely regarding these Saturdays. And when I said the TDC Today show this
Oh,
past Wednesday, the timing
oh,
didn't work
okay.
out for you.
Sorry. Yeah, Wednesdays are much easier for me than Saturday mornings.
Yeah, so at 6 p.m. On Wednesdays is the TDC Today Communities Show. So 6 to 6:30 Sacramento time. You're welcome to come back whatever week works out for you there and join Sue and me and the crew
Yeah,
for
it was
TDC
it
Today.
was wonderful to meet your wife. I've known you well in this way through virtually for about 5 years, and I don't think I'd ever met Sue. Has she been? No. Yeah.
Yeah, she's been co-host with HMP Wisconsin, HMP Wisconsin, Minnesota, HMP North US, and now HMP B2B. But from what I remember, you've stayed out at all of the you've went to a whole slew of other events, and I don't think you really came into our
No,
host events. And
no. I have not yet, but I should.
yeah, I like that word yet, basically 11 a.m. every Wednesday. We're on gobrunch.com/H&P B2B and it's just the digit two, H&P B2B with Go Brunch. So yeah, if that ever works out on a Wednesday, 11 a.m., join us and see Sue again there.
All right.
Oh,
That's good. That's a good time for me usually. Thank you. Well, I appreciate Kurt. Thank you for letting me talk to your audience. And this is a something that I've learned to do recently in my second career. I find it very gratifying. And as you said, I just wanted to have a career where I could help people. That's how I kind of gravitated to social work in the first place. And this business, helping people with their finances and teaching them money, is just as gratifying.
all right, very good. So we have our next guest coming in to the room, but we're going to take a break here and we'll be right back with
Thank,
more
thanks,
from the
Kurt.
world of abilities.